What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the True Crime Rewind Podcast.
Defense attorneys, champions of justice, or opportunistic legal sharks. Today's story completely shatters those stereotypes and reveals the crushing emotional toll of defending someone you truly believe is innocent. After this young woman who sat on that jury got home to Fort Wayne, she was curious about the case she had just heard. She did some research on social media and then decided to reach out to the podcasters and tell them her story if her identity could be protected. For nearly a month from jury selection to delivery of the guilty verdict, 12 jurors and 3 alternates lived the Delphi trial and saw things to this day that the general public has never seen about the murders of Aeye Williams and Libby German near the Monon High Bridge in February of 2017.
So I imagine a lot of them had no idea what they were in for.
While it took investigators more than 5 years to find Richard Allen and more than 2 years to bring him to court, jurors came to their unanimous verdict in 19 and a half hours of deliberations over the course of 4 days. But from the start, there was uncertainty in the jury room.
And that was the day we took a vote at the end, and it was 3 undecided, 9 guilty.
The juror said she was convinced by Allen's description of a white van that drove up a nearby road that day, something police say only the killer would know, and a trooper's testimony who said he thought it was Richard Allen's voice that told the girls. And it was Allen's confessions in prison and his confirmation that he was on the bridge the day of the murders and was dressed like Bridge Guy.
After realizing he's Bridge Guy was pretty easy to add all of those things together. But really just things that he reported himself is really what got me closest to guilty. Although it is very eerie, and looking back, I think, like, who would confess that many times that didn't actually do that? Like, I can't think of how that would ever happen.
The juror said that prosecutor Nick McLeland's closing argument referring to Libby's video of Bridge Guy and Aeye hiding the phone stuck with her throughout deliberation.
That, she always wanted to help police solve crimes, like, that broke my heart. And that they both, hid the phone, got the video, and if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have found Richard Allen. So that stuck with me. Does anyone disagree that Richard Allen's Bridge Guy? And no one did. You really can't.
And the biggest question that's on everybody's mind, and every single live streamer out there that supports the defense team and the theory that potentially someone else.
No one did. You really can't.
And the biggest question that's on everybody's mind, and every single live streamer out there that supports the is the killer other than Richard Allen. Well, if you think that they didn't make the right decision, let's hear it from the juror themselves. Did they make the right decision?
I think we made the right decision. I really do.
You know what fascinates me most about this case? The way it pulls back the curtain on what really happens behind those dramatic headlines.
Well, let's dive into this remarkable situation with the defense team for Richard Allen in the Delphi murders case. These attorneys made this unprecedented shift from total media silence to speaking out. And that's not something you see every day in high-profile cases.
That must have been such a difficult decision to make, especially considering the gag order they were under.
Oh man, and here's what makes this really interesting. They were dealing with this mountain of data, something like thousands of documents and evidence pieces, while simultaneously fighting these public misconceptions about their role in releasing crime scene photos.
So, what finally pushed them to break their silence?
Well, they felt these press conferences were painting this completely distorted picture of their actions and character. You know how they say silence can be deafening? In this case, their silence was actually working against them.
The whole social media aspect of this case is fascinating, like trying to navigate through a digital minefield while building a defense.
Right, and get this, while most legal teams might see social media as purely destructive, These attorneys found that some online sleuths were actually providing valuable leads, though they had to wade through tons of misinformation to find those golden nuggets.
That really shows how the landscape of criminal defense has evolved in the digital age.
Speaking of evolution, let's talk about their tactical decisions during the trial. They made this crucial choice not to have Richard Allen's wife testify, a decision they're now second-guessing. It's like playing chess, where every move could literally determine someone's fate.
And all while carrying the weight of believing in their client's innocence.
You know what's particularly striking? The way they interpreted the jury's lengthy deliberation. While most people might see that as concerning, they saw it as a sign of reasonable doubt taking root. That's the kind of perspective that comes from years of experience in high-stakes trials.
The emotional toll must have been enormous, especially with the public scrutiny they faced.
Well, here's something that really puts it in perspective. They had to balance advocating for their client while showing appropriate sensitivity to the victims' families, like walking a tightrope while carrying the weight of multiple lives on your shoulders.
That kind of pressure could break even the most seasoned professionals.
And yet, despite all this, they're committed to continuing the fight if there's a retrial. That level of dedication, well, it really challenges our assumptions about defense attorneys, doesn't it?
It certainly paints a different picture than what we usually see in media portrayals.
As we wrap up today's story, here's what really stands out. These attorneys aren't just going through the motions. They're fighting for something bigger than one case. They believe that defending someone they're convinced is innocent isn't just about that person. It's about protecting the very foundation of our justice system.
And in today's world of instant judgment and social media trials, maybe that's more important than ever.
You know what? Maybe the real story here isn't just about a legal case. It's about how justice in the modern age requires not just knowledge of the law, but the courage to stand up for what you believe is right, even when the whole world seems to be against you.
True Crime Rewind Podcast. Digging into the dark and mysterious world of the missing and murder. You seek the answers, but you never know what you'll find last. When you rewind, rewind, rewind. Crime Rewind Podcast. Rewind, rewind. Murder on the morning, it echoes through the years. The whispers turn to screams as the truth appears. Murder on the morning, the story's still untold. But I'll find the justice, let the truth unfold. And murder on the morning, it echoes through the years. The whispers turn to screams as the truth appears.